Hi there, Tom from UpRate. I just wanted to shoot a quick video to explain and demonstrate how we deal with cancellations within UpRate. So we've made a couple of changes with our most recent release that should help to stay on top of both your active live jobs that have sort of going ahead and need to be invoiced for as usual, but then also your jobs that were booked in, have been cancelled, and you may or may not still need to do something on them in terms of invoicing or sort of just admin on it. So what I've done in this test account is I've loaded a example job in. You'll see here against the Liebherr LTR 1100. I booked that crane onto 200 Baker Street, Monday to Friday for 2 weeks, starting on the 8th of December and also running on the 15th of December. So it's a 2 week job with the crane, and then I go and jump to the labour scheduler. It's also got on the same dates John Doe, who in this case I guess would be the driver. If I go to the asset scheduler, I'm going to click up here to go into the weekly view. You can see that John Doe is also on the job there. Uh, Basically, once this has been booked in, our system has automatically created the invoices for these 2 weeks for you. So if I go to Invoice Manager, you'll see that default is we invoice a week ahead, like a week behind. So like a default is Monday the 8th of December to Sunday the 14th. You can see there's already a invoice in the to-do list for that job, 200 Baker Street with Liebherr LTR 1100 and John Doe shown there. And if I jump forward another week to the 15th of December, Monday the 15th, there's the second invoice for week number 2 of this job. So that's all done automatically anytime you book anything, whether it's a asset or labor resource onto a contract, you get the invoice created. If the customer cancels this job last minute, and I still want to invoice for it with a cancellation fee, but I obviously don't want it booked into the scheduler because the job's not going ahead anymore. What I can do is if I add a charge or a timesheet or a comment to any of these invoices that have been created, I can then cancel the job on the scheduler, and it means that the invoice in the to-do list will just stay there so that it's a reminder that you need to bill for this thing. So if I show you an example, I'll do one where I haven't added anything to it. So I've not collected any timesheets for this job yet. I've not added any charges to the invoice. And when I say add charge to the invoice, I mean putting stuff in this table here. So I haven't added any timesheets, haven't added any charges, haven't added any comments to the invoice. If I now come and say that this job's cancelled and I right click on that and I say cancel from this date onwards, that removes all of the dates from the crane. And then I go and do the same for John Doe, which was the driver. What that's going to do automatically is it's going to basically hide those invoices that were created and mark them as cancelled. So you can see that across both weeks, it's not now in the to-do list. If I click this button at the top right, you've got what we call our excluded invoices. So you can see the 200 Baker Street, that invoice is now moved out of the to-do list into here, and it's got cancelled on the sort of on the list item here. And if I click into that, you'll see that I cancelled it. So I triggered moving it to cancellation. So that's an example of a job that you were cancelling and you didn't want to charge for it. So maybe you had enough notice that your terms don't require a charge. But what I'll do now is I'll show you an example for if you did want to charge for it in that scenario. So I'm just going to quickly book this crane onto a new job. So Keltbray. Just going to create a new customer for this. So Keltbray, and we'll say it's Hinkley Point C job. So if I've booked the crane onto that, same dates, Monday to Friday for 2 weeks, and then I'll go to the invoice manager, you'll see if I refresh the page, just takes a minute to come through sometimes, but you'll see that it should now have, yeah, so sorry, because I booked that in from the 15th, I should have done it from the 8th. Okay, so I booked the crane in from the 8th of December through to the 26th, and you'll see that now I've got an invoice on the 8th, I've got an invoice on the 15th, and I've got an invoice on the 22nd. Um, if I'd booked that in and now the customer calls up and tells me, say, on the Friday, the 5th, that they want to cancel the job, and I still want to charge for this because it's a last minute cancellation, what I can do is I can right click on the assignment sticker for Monday the 8th, right click on that. I can say add charge for this week is the caption. That's going to open the relevant invoice in a new tab. This is just loading here. So you can see Monday the 8th in display, the crane's booked in. I'm going to add a item to the charge all items table. So cancellation fee, 2/3 quoted price as per T's and C's. And we'll just pretend that's £1,500. I can add a comment as well at the same time if I want. Customer cancelled on Friday the 5th. Agreed with Bob that 2/3 fee will be due. So yeah, I'm just adding some additional information while it's sort of fresh and I can remember it. So I've added that. If I now go back to the scheduler, now I can right click on Monday the 8th for that assignment. I can go cancel. That's going to remove all of the booked days because the job's no longer going ahead. But now if I go back to the invoice manager, the invoice from the 8th of December, which was the first day of the job, is still there. It's got the cancellation charge item in there. It's got my comment in there. So whoever's picking up the invoices now knows that, okay, we didn't actually do anything on this job, but we still need to charge for it. And then if I jump ahead 1 week to Monday the 15th, you'll see that all the other invoices that would have come off the back of that job, they've still been marked as cancelled. So they're not in the to-do list anymore, and they're in the hidden or the excluded section because in this scenario, I only added the charge to that first week. So the first invoice is retained. The second and the third invoice is automatically cancelled for me. If I'd added a charge item to any of to these ones, they would have also been retained. But in this scenario, I'm assuming that you would only want to charge for that first. You'd charge for that 1 week. You'd charge whatever the fee is, and then you'd be done with it. And then it just means that you don't have jobs on your scheduler that aren't actually going ahead, and you don't have to worry about removing stuff from the scheduler. So also then means your to-do list on the invoice page reflects what actually does need to be charged for, as opposed to showing a load of invoices that actually aren't needed because the job was cancelled. So yeah, hopefully that clears up the cancellation process. Happy to answer any more questions on it or sort of give demos and take any feedback on if we can get it any better. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful. So thanks for watching.